From henchmen and bad guys known for using their brains and brawn, to superpowered supervillains and monstrosities alike, there are quite a few baddies that we have encountered throughout the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Most villains end up getting defeated by Earth's mightiest heroes, having their evil master plans foiled, ending up locked away for good, or even worse.
This place is amazing.
However, some of these villains survive and escape and are given a second chance and have been lurking around behind the scenes, doing who knows what with heaven knows who. Here are a few of them. Phineas Mason, known as the Tinkerer among his peers, is a former salvager and current inventor and genius-level intellect with the gift of engineering. First introduced and last seen in the MCU during Spider-Man Homecoming, the Tinkerer was recruited by Adrian Toomes, who we'll talk about more in just a moment. Tinkering with Ultron, Chitauri, and Dark Elf technology salvaged from battle sites and left behind in the rubble of the destruction caused by supers over the course of the MCU's Phases 1, 2, and 3, Phineas Mason secretly manufactured a fair amount of powerful weapons, including Toomes' iconic suit. Convincing Adrian Toomes to take on one final heist, resulting in his boss being defeated by Spider-Man and arrested, the Tinkerer would quietly go into hiding, and has not been heard from or seen in the MCU since. In the comics, the Tinkerer is capable of fashioning weapons and gadgets out of pretty much anything. Like, the dude could take a toaster and convert it into a taser or gun or something in an instant. He has even designed and taken control of giant robot suits in order to fight against superheroes as well. With a mastermind of the Tinkerer's caliber still lurking behind the scenes in the MCU, it would be foolish to assume we will not come across this criminal genius again someday.
Tinkerer! I'm famous!
As mentioned in our previous entry, Adrian Toomes was the owner of Bestman Salvage, an independent company contracted to come in and clean up after alien invasions and superhuman battle sites. You know, typical everyman labor work stuff. After losing his livelihood to the federalized organization called Damage Control, Toomes turned to the black market and inevitably a life of crime in response. Recruiting a tight-knit and small team of criminals, including the aforementioned Tinkerer, Toomes would have a mechanical flying exosuit constructed, which he would use to hijack parts and technology for his operation. Becoming known as the Vulture, Toomes would set his sights on one of Tony Stark's cargo planes containing and transporting much of Iron Man's tech and belongings. Spider-Man would of course thwart the Vulture's evil efforts.
Messing with things you don't understand.
However, the villain would discover Spidey's true identity first. Ultimately being arrested and imprisoned, Vulture would show gratitude to Spider-Man for saving him during their final clash, as well as his daughter in an earlier event, refusing to give up Peter Parker's name to the authorities. As one of Spider-Man's earliest and most consistent villains, the Vulture will undoubtedly stick his beak into the webhead's business again sometime in the future.
The world's changing.
Sticking with dastardly villains that have it out for Iron Man's property and will probably be stuck behind bars for the rest of their lives, or until they discover how to break themselves out at least, the egotistical and imprudent Justin Hammer has not been seen for a good minute inside the MCU. Hammer was one of the main antagonists in Iron Man 2, a military contractor and CEO of the now defunct Hammer Industries, a direct competitor to the more noble and successful Stark Industries. Hammer would attempt to defame Tony Stark and steal his arc reactor technology, among other things.
Because that's how I feel.
Recruiting the convicted terrorist Ivan Vanko, aka Whiplash, Hammer would inevitably be exposed and have his plans thwarted by Iron Man and Pepper Potts. Whiplash would in turn perish in battle with Iron Man and not be seen again inside of the MCU. Justin Hammer would be last seen in the MCU locked away inside of Seagate Penitentiary. With Hammer's resources and manipulative ways, don't be surprised if we see him pop up during an upcoming series or film, like perhaps Ironheart or Armor Wars. Baron Helmut Zemo is a Sokovian nobleman who masterminded the events that led to the death of King T'Chaka, triggering the hero versus hero battle during Captain America's Civil War. Holding a grudge and bolstering a vendetta against supers for what happened to Sokovia during the events of Age of Ultron, Baron Zemo would blame the death of the Wakandan king on the Winter Soldier. After being exposed as the puppet master behind the scenes, he was captured by T'Challa and locked up in the Joint Counter-Terrorist Center. Though Zemo ultimately won and achieved his desired goal, he created a rift between Earth's mightiest heroes and turned half of the Avengers into fugitives on the run from the government, as well as manipulating manipulated Captain America into almost killing one of his best friends. Years later, ZEMO would be broken out of prison by Falcon and the Winter Soldier, who needed assistance and knowledge in relation to Hydra and the Super Soldier Serum. Unfortunately, but luckily for the Baron, the Dora Milaje awaited him on the outside for his crimes against Wakanda, choosing to spare his life and turn him into the raft where he presumably remains to this day. However, with a Thunderbolts movie slated for the MCU in Phase 5, ZEMO is probably plotting his next move already. Speaking of Thunderbolts, General Thaddeus E. Thunderbolt Ross is the archenemy of Bruce Banner and is so obsessed with the Hulk that he transformed himself into the Red Hulk in order to combat his foe in the comics. Although we have not seen the Red Hulk on screen thus far, General Thunderbolt Ross in his basic human form has been a prominent figure throughout MCU history, always looming in the background and seemingly having his hands touching everything government related in Marvel's cinematic universe in some capacity. It is rumored that Ross will finally transform into the Red Hulk during the upcoming Thunderbolts movie. A common misconception, by the way, the Thunderbolts team did not originally get their name from Thunderbolt Ross. Rather, Thunderbolts was initially a World War II term or trope akin to Stormtroopers or Blitzkrieg. However, the third incarnation of the Thunderbolts team in the comics was assembled by General Ross as a Suicide Squad-esque group of anti-heroes willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. This is the iteration of the Thunderbolts that the MCU is going to be basing their team on, and therefore it is safe to assume that we'll know where they get their name from. Another gamma-radiated and obsessive Hulk supervillain, Samuel Stearns is returning to the MCU as the leader, an egocentric genius. Using his both literal and figurative big-headedness, Leader has found himself in constant conflict with Bruce Banner's Hulk, self-proclaiming himself as the Hulk's archenemy in the comics. First and last seen all the way back in Phase 1 during The Incredible Hulk, what is the second film in the entire MCU, Dr. Stearns was a cellular biologist and professor at Greyburn College, who was attempting to find a cure for Bruce Banner's gamma radiation. On the page, Stearns is a simple laborer in an American chemical plant. After Banner had discovered that Stearns was replicating his blood, he urged the doctor to destroy the lab containing it all. Unfortunately, Stearns would infect Emil Blonsky with Banner's blood and gamma radiation, transforming the military man into the Abomination. When Blonsky trashed Stearns' lab, some of Banner's blood would trickle into the doctor's open head wound, instantly mutating his brain and transforming him into the Leader. Another supervillain often forgotten about, but also rumored to be part of the upcoming Captain America New World Order, Red Skull, formerly known as Johann Schmidt, was initially seen leading Hydra, before being defeated by Captain America's Steve Rogers during World War II. Upon touching the Tesseract, Red Skull was teleported to Vormir, where he became the Stonekeeper, a wraith trapped in a state of purgatory. Red Skull was last seen chronologically consulting Thanos upon his arrival on Vormir, where the Mad Titan would sacrifice his adopted daughter Gamora in exchange for the stone. Although it is unclear whether or not we will ever see Red Skull on Earth again, the fact remains that he still exists in some capacity out in the universe. One of the few characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that is not based off of any one particular character, but rather an amalgamation of multiple characters from the comics, Ava Starr is the Ghost. Loosely based aesthetically on the murderous, biotechnological sentient villain of the same name from the comics, Ghost from the MCU garnered her powers after a failed experiment involving the quantum realm. After duking it out with Ant-Man and the Wasp during the events of the sequel film sharing the same name, Ghost and Bill Foster would inevitably escape, and it wouldn't be long after that when the snap or blip would take place, turning Hope and Janet Van Dyne, as well as Hank Pym, into dust. This was the last time we saw either of these anti-villains inside of the MCU. Interestingly enough, Bill Foster is also sometimes a villain in the comics known as Black Goliath. With Ghost announced as a member of the team during the Thunderbolts movie, is it possible Goliath will not be that far behind? Known as Sister Hammer in the comics, the sibling of Shang-Chi and daughter of the infamous warlord Mandarin, goes by the name XIALING in the MCU. Another one of the very few characters created primarily for Marvel's Cinematic Universe, XIALING is a master martial artist who left the Ten Rings organization to start an underground fight tournament at the Golden Daggers Club in China. XIALING would help her brother and father defeat the Dweller in Darkness during the Battle of Ta Lo. The Mandarin would unfortunately perish. Although seen primarily as a hero both in the comics and during the events of Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, the last time we saw XIALING she had taken after her father, becoming the new leader of the Ten Rings organization herself. Due to her connections with the underground crime world, XIALING and the Ten Rings will surely be back during the MCU's Phases 5 and 6. KARL Amadeus MORDO is a former member of the Master of the Mystic Arts, who used to assist the Ancient One in recruiting and training future sorcerers inside of Kamar-Taj. One of those future sorcerers being Dr. Stephen Strange, who would, as we all know, go on to become the Sorcerer Supreme, and then not the Sorcerer Supreme, but that's neither here nor there. Upon learning that the Ancient One drew her power from the Dark Dimension, something forbidden to the Masters of the Mystic Arts, MORDO became mortified by his colleagues' violation of natural laws, and broke bad on his allies. MORDO would make attacking sorcerers who use their magic for alternate purposes his goal, regardless of their innocence or guilt. We have not seen our main continuity KARL MORDO since Phase 3 in the MCU. However, during Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness on Earth 838, we would meet Baron MORDO, Sorcerer Supreme, and a member of the Illuminati of his universe. The Cosmic Conqueror, the Destroyer of Worlds. DORMAMMU is a multiple million-year-old powerful energy entity that rules over the Dark Dimension. DORMAMMU would share his powers with Kaecilius, another former member of the Masters of the Mystic Arts, who became disillusioned with the Ancient One, all in an effort to merge the Dark Dimension with Earth. Being confronted by Doctor Strange, DORMAMMU never actually lost or was really defeated by the Sorcerer Supreme. Rather, he agreed to stop his takeover on a technicality. Strange would use the Time Stone, which was contained inside of the Eye of Agamotto, to trap DORMAMMU in a time loop. Simply frustrated with his circumstances, DORMAMMU agreed to leave Earth alone and is still lurking somewhere in another realm. As seen during the post-credits for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Strange is taken off into the ethos alongside Clea, who just so happens in the comics to be DORMAMMU's niece. Coincidence? I think not. Zeus is the king of the Olympians, god of the sky and lightning and leader of omnipotent city. Hercules is Zeus's son. In the comics, Zeus and Hercules are natural foes and long-standing rivals with Odin and Thor. We were introduced to both of these characters in the MCU during Thor: Love and Thunder, when Thor, Valkyrie, and Jane Foster confronted Zeus in Omnipotent City, warning the universe's deities of the threat of Gore the God Butcher. Already possessing a disdain for supers as they are worshipped more than the gods in modern times, a past his prime Zeus would use his weapon Thunderbolt to do battle with Thor and his friends. Ironically enough, Zeus would have his own Thunderbolt plunged through his chest during the tussle before the enchanted weapon was stolen by the crew. During the post-credits scene, it was revealed that Zeus had actually survived the assault and had tasked his son Hercules with not only killing Thor, but waging war against the heroes of Earth as a whole. Warning! Major Black Panther Wakanda Forever spoilers ahead. In the MCU, Kukulkan, the feathered serpent god, otherwise known as Namor, is a telecanil and mutant hybrid. Possessing unlimited amounts of vibranium in his underwater paradise, Namor felt threatened when the United States came close to his country while searching for the precious alien metal. In response, Namor headed to Wakanda and proposed a military alliance, in hopes of terminating every other army on Earth before their respective hidden nations were discovered or explored any further. Upon their refusal, Namor took the life of Wakanda's Queen Ramonda, leaving the recently fallen T'Challa's baby sister, Shuri, no choice but to become the Black Panther herself in order to combat the Submariner. Ultimately, Shuri would outsmart Namor, and after beating him one-on-one, the two parties agreed to end the war. Yielding for now, Namor fully expects that Wakanda will come to him in need for help at some point in the future. The Celestials are entities with vast matter and energy manipulation capabilities and are the oldest race in the entire universe. Although the Celestials are not inherently evil, they do believe in the balance of the universe. With life and creation must come death and destruction. Therefore, the Celestials have also created near-immortal monstrous races, such as the Deviants and the Exterminators, in order to ensure and cultivate life on a planet while wiping out its apex predators and natural threats. However, in the MCU, the Deviants would evolve and begin hunting down and exterminating all sapient life forms. In response, the Celestials then created the Eternals, a race of synthetic Celestials sent to protect and plant a Celestial seed within any given planet. Because the Celestials are amoral and are usually trying to manipulate or purge evolution in some form or fashion, at times they may act immorally, meaning they should be considered a constant subconscious threat for Earth's mightiest heroes inside of the MCU. And finally, having met He Who Remains at the end of the Loki series, who very confusingly but charismatically explained the story of Nathaniel Richards, Kang the Conqueror, incursions, and the impending multiversal war headed for Earth. We know that Kang is a serious threat looming in the near future of the MCU. With Avengers the Kang Dynasty and Avengers Secret Wars slated for Phase 6, it's a safe bet to say that we will meet a myriad of Kang / He Who Remains / Nathaniel Richards variants along the way throughout Phases 5 and 6. Few Kangs will be good, many Kangs will be evil. All Kangs will aid in telling the story leading up to the inevitable battle for the multiverse that awaits the Avengers. I for one am incredibly excited for our first look at Kang during Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and any other alternate versions of the Conqueror we might meet along the way. Where do you think we'll see a Kang pop up next? And that's our list. Did we leave any out? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to sound off with your own theories in regards to villains lurking in the background of the MCU. While you're down there, please hit those like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to enable notifications so you don't miss a moment of covert criminal comic content.